A glen is defined as a narrow valley. For decades, a small town at the south end of Seneca Lake in New York State sat quietly next to a spectacular geological formation, giving the town the name Watkins Glen. Quiet this town stays, except for a few weekends a year. A few miles up the road, there's a racetrack with international fame. It's hosted Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA, Grand Am, and SCCA races. And this track bears the same name as the town, which hosted street races decades before. Watkins Glen International is one of the great American road courses, built in a time when pavement was just laid on top of the land. It follows the natural flow, climbing steep inclines, dropping down into valleys, and streaking across the Finger Lakes region countryside. It's changed a bit since its construction in the 1950s, with the relocation of the start line and pit road, and the addition of two new sections, the Boot in 1971 and the Inner Loop in 1992. Since then, it's become an American motorsports icon. Known for its high speeds and narrow S's, it was referred to as the super speedway of road courses by many drivers. Its sky blue Armco walls have become a symbol of this place. Over the years, Watkins Glen has seen safety improvements, including asphalt runoff in several corners, relocating some walls, and adding curbing. In the 2015 off-season, it was repaved, making it smoother and even faster. But like the valley for which it is named, it remains a challenge for every driver who pulls out on course. For the people who cherish these hallowed grounds, it's not just a Glen, it's the Glen. Watkins Glen.
But we're here for Watkins Glen for another round of Field Edition 22 from the Series. I'm here by myself with Brandon Cruz and Brandon here for some race for 2,000. But I think this isn't even good. It's going to be an excellent race.
Excellent racing for sure, and I don't get to cover many road courses, so I am kind of excited for this, especially, they call this the super speedway of road courses, and for good reason. The high-speed straightaways and all the way through the corners and the narrow S's creates for some really interesting racing and can create for a little bit of calamity as well.
Indeed, we're here in the middle of qualifying here, drivers. About half of the grid is put down. Lap time. Currently, it's Riley Thompson at the top of the charts. He's top of the charts in practice as well, so interested in seeing what this 58 car has got. Even Travis McQuistion in the 93 has put down a solid time as well. But as more drivers are going to start their lap, we'll take a look track map of Watkins Glen International here, and you can see on the screen there. I'm sorry, Brandon. And see if I can also get you to view this as well. But as I'm setting that up, looking at Watkins Glen down into turn one, a very fierce corner, very challenging corner as well for these drivers. Is heading down into there, deep onto the brakes. Can't make a mistake, because then you got to set up a run down the back straightaway through the S's. Yeah, into the carousel too, and then you come back onto another straightaway, and also again, it's another corner where the run's going to be very important off the corner. You head down to the straightaway into the final 2 turns. Got to make sure you hit those right. You can definitely lose a lot of time, but you can also gain a lot of time if you hit them just right, and that's going to take you a lap around Watkins Glen International. So really interested in seeing how this race is going to play out. The stock cars on road courses are honestly a match made in heaven for me. I think it's a really interesting combination and something I think we don't see enough of, really in the stock car calendars in the U.S.
Road course that we see here in Watkins Glen, New York, and I guess I could consider this my home track as well. Not too far away from where I'm at, but these guys ready to throw their cars around. The heavy stock cars always put on a really good show on the road courses, and these guys with just about 3.5 minutes left on qualifying. Still Riley Thompson holding the top of the board so far, 1:12.887. So the only guy into the minute 12.8 at this very moment, and it's proving to be a pretty fast lap time so far at the top of the board. Maybe looking good for quick time after qualifying is all said and done.
And looking currently at Kyle Lamb in the 81 machine, a relatively new driver to the series. Don't think I recognize that name. If not, he's made a few starts. Coming through the final set of corners here, Casey Lakatos in his 50 SimTV machine. He's putting down a flying lap at the moment through the bus stop. And this is a really challenging section of track. Gain a lot of time, you could also lose a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely you can, and out of the bus stop and into the carousel is going to be probably one of the more crucial parts of the racetrack, and you don't want to overdrive it. You really want to ease the car in there as much as you can. You overdrive it, and it allows other drivers the opportunity to slip underneath you, and just with that little mistake, you could lose up to 5, 6, 7 positions, if not more, especially if it's coming off of one of these hectic restarts.
Also looking at Thomas Bressi in the 24 car, he comes across the line. For him, it's going to be a minute 13.176. And it looks like he's going to still stay in third place. That's where he was the lap prior. And I'm definitely keeping my eye on the 24. Bressi won this race when we were running the Cup cars for this very series. And I think he's looking to repeat that. This is actually his last win, if I'm not mistaken, as well, in the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series. So I think he's looking to get another win to his name here, especially as this season has started to wind down. But the one man who's been winning nearly all the races, unfortunately he's not on the track, can't get a look at him, but I'll pull him up on the bottom. Nick Johnson in the 20. He's been doing a phenomenal job this season so far. And Brandon, I know you haven't been here to watch these races, but I'm trying to pull up the number if I can get the amount of wins he has this season to his name. If I can let my phone load here. That's not what I wanted at all. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Need more screens is what I need. For Nick Johnson, he has 3 wins this season so far, and he's been dominating and doing a really solid job. And here he is going to be starting on the front row, as it looks like I think everyone that's qualified has put down their time.
Yeah, I think everybody that's going to turn a time did turn a time here tonight. I don't see anybody out onto the race track at this very moment, and it's looking good for Riley Thompson to start this race at a top level, quite literally. He is looking good for the quick time here tonight. Nick Johnson shortly there behind him, and Thomas Bressi looking like they're going to be your top 3 starters. And, you know, I haven't ever covered these guys before, but one name I recognize back from quite a while ago in my broadcasting career is Thomas Bressi, and I know that he is a name to watch out for here. So anybody that can compete up at the top of the board here, I know is going to be a quick driver all throughout. I'm seeing top 6, top 7, all the way back through the top 10, or actually decently close lap times, and even a little bit further back than that. So looking good for these guys, and qualifying's wrapping up.
Yeah, qualifying wrapping up indeed as the timer ticks to 0. We're going to get ready to go green for 52 laps around Watkins Glen. It's going to be a fairly short event, very much a sprint race for these guys, but even though it's a sprint, gonna have to be careful and not burn up your stuff too early. And you also, again, I actually have a few keys to the race. I'll just pull them up on. And I think really, so for these guys, they're only gonna have to make one stop and one stop only. And I think that's also gonna put emphasis on, not only just getting into your pit box. So we've seen a bunch of guys, just slide through their pit stop in several different series at several different tracks. But I think also, and I've had a problem with this too in the past, coming down pit road, don't get a speeding penalty. And remember, it's downhill. And I don't know about you, Brandon, but I've run into the past where I've gotten a speeding penalty because I didn't realize I was going downhill and accelerating, and I got bopped for speeding.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that you really got to watch out for here as these guys take to the grid, and all of these racers going to be ready to roll and rumble here in just a few moments' time. They'll take one pace lap around the Watkins Glen International Raceway, and they'll get ready to rock and roll here for the first time of the night under green flag racing conditions.
And it will also take time to go through your starting lineup. So starting on pole, Riley Thompson, the 58. Starting there, also is really fast. So this graphic's really fast. So I'll just kind of let that scroll across the bottom because I'm going to get my tongue tied up trying to pronounce all the names as quickly as I can. But as it's rolling across the bottom, I'll actually pull up the keys again just to kind of walk this through. And I think also another thing too is going to be being careful on lap number 1. And I think Watkins Glen, in comparison to a lot of other road courses, really has the potential in the first part of the lap to really bottle up these cars. So, I mean, Brandon, if you're one of these guys, especially in the back, what can you do to, I guess, try to be more careful than normal on the opening lap?
The biggest thing here is just to try to give other drivers the space. We know that you're not going to be able to win it on lap 1, corner 1, so just giving all of these drivers the space that they need is going to be oh so crucial here on lap 1. But even throughout the first, I'd say maybe 3 laps of this race, you don't want to find yourself in any sort of trouble because obviously if you cripple the race car this early, you're not going to have any chance towards the end of this race.
Scroll through our grid there, and then also the last thing I have is also, to finish first, you must first finish. And I think, for a lot of these guys as well, it's just a matter of not making mistakes in this race because, again, with a road course race like this, we're not going to have a caution, or if anything, you're not going to see it unless it's on the opening lap. So it's going to be a matter of just keeping that car clean and making sure you get it to the end, because even if you're the leader or second place, if you're pushing too hard, you can find yourself into these blue highway barriers, and that's not going to be good for your car and going to end your day early. So it's going to, just make sure you get to the end of the finish line. You see the people roll through the S's.
Yeah, the field's slow rolling, and the last time for the evening that we will see these guys rolling at pace speed is on the road courses. These guys will have the local cautions only. And from there, it's going to be green flag racing. 52 laps around the Watkins Glen International Raceway. These guys will go, and it's going to be a race of persistence and stamina as these guys are going to be wheeling these heavy stock cars around, and their arms are going to get tired. It's going to be a physical workout and a mental workout for all of these drivers out here on this racetrack tonight, as the road courses always prove within the NASCAR vehicles.
And taking a look at your track conditions as well, it's 77 degrees in the air, fairly cool for the most part. Track temperature, however, with the sun baking down, is brought it up to 102. And again, that's not kind of in that range. It's not terribly hot, but it's also not terribly cool either. But definitely, I think if these guys start to slide around on the rear tires, and I was looking at a few guys, really abusing their rear tires, that's definitely going to come into factor here. And you want to, again, save your equipment to the end of your run. But as we work through the final few corners here, we're going to get ready to go green at Watkins Glen. It's going to be about an hour to the end of this race. We go green all the way, which we're more likely than not are. And getting ready to start another exciting race, another exciting stock car race on a road course. As we come out of the final turn, pace truck in this case is going to make the left turn, right turn onto pit road. Riley Thompson already starting to accelerate. We're at green here at the Glen.
These guys will storm down into the first heavy braking zone for the first time of the night. It's going to be Riley Thompson getting the whole shot down into quarter number 1. Thomas Bresci going to make it out right behind him. He's going to move up into the second position. Nick Johnson is going to be right back there as well. These guys going to quickly single out for the S's, and the tight S's they are as they head down to the back portion of the racetrack down towards the boot.
And so far, it looks like we don't have any problems in the field. Everyone, for the most part, has sorted themselves out. Now, here is another trouble spot into the bus stop for the first time.
So another heavy braking zone, as we know these guys are going to have to deal with all night long. High speeds and pretty high corners all around this racetrack here. And everybody makes it through the carousel so far. No problems, as Riley Thompson looking clean and green for the first time here tonight, as Thomas Bresci literally green up there, back there in that green number 24 right behind him.
Ooh, as we say that, he was green, he was in the grass, he was so green. As Nick Johnson now looking in behind him, trying to take that spot back. Bresci was able to take it from him on the opening lap, but again, not done yet. He's still pretty much young, but for Riley Thompson, it's just a matter of trying to break away from everyone else in behind.
And that it is, and all these guys going to be just riding here so far. And, you know, one thing I haven't been able to calculate here yet is either fuel or tire strategy. I know that the tire fall off is probably going to be pretty significant here with the high speeds and tight corners. And I know that the rear tires, and I'm sure the front tires under certain stress are going to be pretty slicked off by the end of these runs. And I'm going to assume maybe 2 pit stops for these guys here tonight. Don't take my word for that, but I'm going to assume probably twice down pit road for all of these drivers, so I'm sure we're going to see equally split runs.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw that we were going to... Are you saying 2 pit stops or 2 stints?
I'm thinking maybe 2 pit stops for these guys and a total of 3 stints. Trying to split these into equal sections here, but you know, I don't know exactly how far these cars can go on fuel here, and I just haven't gotten around to calculate it.
Yeah, I think from the calculations I was doing earlier, these guys can go about 31 laps on a tank, 31 laps. I think it's definitely going to be at a point there, probably if they can stretch it. Really the tires more than anything else. I think you're going to try to just do a one-stop race, not spend the extra time down on pit road. We can see our leaders here slowly starting to spread out. As is the majority of the fuel we saw a pass on from Kyle Lamb earlier. Speaking of the 81 car, he started as he catches the curbing through the S's, starting 15th, already up to 9th, so one of the biggest movers in the race so far.
And that he is, and you know, you brought up the stretch of fuel, and I know again it's still early to talk about that whole situation, but we brought it up, and it could play a strategy game into this whole thing as well if guys feel that they can save enough fuel from the start of this race to try to stretch this into 2 different runs. And tire fall off may have something to say about this. I don't know how significant it's going to be here. Again, this model Watkins Glen still on the older concrete or the older asphalt here from what they currently have on this surface in real life, but you know, tire fall off could have something to say. But if these guys can manage to maybe stretch it into 2 different stints in 1 pit stop, it could play a huge advantage as well.
Also looking here at Colin Fambro is trying to get to the back of the 46 of Chad Simpson up ahead. It's a battle for 10th place brewing between drivers, one of the closer battles on the track. But struggling in the last section of track and fell a little bit in behind. So Fambro now currently sitting back in 11th, trying to catch back up, checking back at our leaders. This is really, I think, these 3 guys, I would even honestly throw in Mitch Welker in the 76, a really good driver in the IndyCar series, so he knows his way around these road courses and has done fairly well at them, a few that we've been this season. But I really am I'm going to keep my eyes on these top 4. I think our winner is going to come from this little batch as they break away from the rest of the field. Yeah, absolutely. All these guys I know are going to be really fast here tonight, in the top 3 especially, and you know, even Mitch Welker back there in that 4th position with a 76 machine. Tyler Hensley, I know he could be fast around here as well. You know, I think those 5 drivers are really going to be the ones to look out for here tonight, as all of these guys kind of broken away from everybody else, and I think that's going to be the trend here for tonight, is these guys going to be riding and just trying to gain any little bit that they can on the guys in front of them. But as of right now, I think it's just everybody trying to save their stuff. And that's really going to be a factor towards the end of just being conservative, waiting for the right moment to strike, especially considering how relatively hot the track is compared to Just compared to the temperature, and then also looking back here, Michael Stroll, I believe that's in the 8th car. This is a new name I don't recognize. Taking a look where he started in 9th, has fallen back into 12th place and chasing down Faro in 2nd up ahead as they go bust up.
Yeah, so all these guys going to be riding around again in any position that they can back here. One thing I'm noticing, or a trend that I'm noticing, is some of the guys that are kind of towards the latter half of the top 10 or just outside of the top 10 are still pretty close together and still within striking distance to one another. So it'll be interesting to see how the run goes on, how that all plays out amongst that group of drivers back there. Chap Simpson back there. Kyle Lambie going to be back there as well. All of these guys just kind of fighting for position, and I'm sure any points here from tonight is going to play a huge effect as well.
Taking a look at, this is Filip Radojcic in the 19, having a look up the inside. Casey Lakatos trying to make a move on the 50 car. They're side by side through the S's, and this is a very sketchy part of the track to be side by side.
That it is, and all these guys almost contact on the exit of the S's right there, or the exit of the first portion of the S's, and they managed to single it back out. The 19 machine's going to fall back, and Lakatos is going to pull away. They're going to single out for the bus stop.
Yeah, this is another part of that track too. Side by side can work. A lot of times it doesn't work, but by the time they get there, it's Lakatos that's going to be the winner of that battle, though they have lost a little bit of time to the other close battle you're looking at up ahead. Speaking of a close battle for the lead, how about this?
These guys are trying to gain any little bit that they can, and we see Thomas Bressi starting to gain. We see Nick Johnston starting to gain as well. A little bit slideways down into corner number 1 for that 28th machine. He managed to gain it back under control, and all these guys going to be right on each other's bumper covers down through the S's, and this is where things start to get really close. Now they've got a sense of each other's drafts here. The higher speeds of Watkins Glen does allow these guys to draft just a little bit off of each other, and things kind of get sketchy when you get close together too, Finian, as breaking points may be different, so all these guys got to keep their heads on their shoulders if they're going to be racing this close. Bressi maybe trying to pull a move down to the inside, just couldn't quite get his nose in there.
Yeah, I was trying to make a move. I had a great run out of the bus stops and trying to make a move, but this 24-year-old, I was looking at him through the S's. He's kicking the back end out. He's definitely not saving anything, and I'm curious if this is going to come back to bite if he keeps pushing like this, although at this point it looks like all 3 of them are pushing really hard. There you see Riley Thompson now go wide on the exit from the penultimate corner now to the final corner. Bryce looks around the outside. Johnson tries to give him a boot. This is some great stuff.
Oh man, a big wiggle up there towards the outside of the racetrack for the 58 machine that last time out of the final corner. Now Bressi's going to have the advantage down into the heavy braking zone, turn number 1. And these guys will power up into the S's. Are they going to hold it side by side? Yes, sir, they will. And they're going to keep it side by side. And man, oh man, that puts Riley Thompson in a bad position and almost turned Nick Johnston to the outside K-rail.
Yeah, and how about that in a few complexes of corners? Riley Thompson goes from being first back into 3rd, but for Thomas Bressi, he's inherited the lead. Maybe this 24 can try to run away with it again. Was last time the series visited this track, he was the winner. Trying to repeat that, although again, Nick Johnson, as great as he's been so far, 3 wins this. Trying to make a win number 4, but he's got to chase down that 24 up ahead of him.
That he does, and Thomas Bressi looking like a pretty good spot right now, and man, Riley Thompson, he lost 2 positions there, went from the lead all the way back into that 3rd position. He hasn't lost a ton of time yet, but Bressi out in the clean air out front, and now Nick Johnson starting to try to gain on him once again, as I think this is going to be a trend with the leaders pretty much all the night. At least that's the sense that I'm starting to get here, Finian.
Yeah, especially I'm curious, though, with Thompson being put back into 3rd, if he can keep up with pace, he might potentially fall off here, as Johnson's already caught all the way back up to the 24 here, and he's going to get a pretty decent run down this straightaway.
Out of the S's this time around, the 28 machine hot in the trail of that 24 now. Thomas Bressi, he's going to have a little bit of company down here into the boots, and this is where patience is key. Bressi has to keep running his line. He can't keep looking at the rear view. It's good to glance up every once in a while to try to get a sense in where that driver is behind you, but you have to run your consistent line, and consistency is key here on the road courses for these heavy stock cars. And if you can run that consistent line lap after lap, the advantage is always going to go to you.
Technically, I'm probably going to regret this. We'll take a quick look back at a battle for fourth that's brewing as well. Mitch Welker under attack from Tyler Hensley. You're talking about this 44 machine. Keeping an eye on him, he might have some pace. He's trying to flex his muscles here. His teammates also with the 24 Bressi. So both these guys doing pretty well at the road courses, running first and fifth at the moment.
Yeah, Hensley, I know another name that I recognize personally, and I know that he always has good finishes here on the road courses, up within the top 5, and trying to show what he's got here tonight. And of course, his teammate currently leading this race, but Hensley doing a pretty good job up there as well, back in that 5th position so far.
Christian and Liam Sheen going at it. Currently battle on going for 6th place. Sheen trying to get a run on the exit of the S's here, heading down to the bus stop. When we see him potentially have a look, does he make a dive on the 93? Not.
It looked like he was looking, and look out, 93. He's going to be slideways down out of the exit of the bus stop, and he manages to collect it back up, and that may hurt the tires a little bit, as well as maybe a little bit of his pride, but he's going to gather it back up and now head down the back portion of the speedway now, and that was kind of a tough break, but he can regain and try to gain what he lost there.
Yeah, taking a quick look back at the 93, McCushion is heading through. I think just hit the shift wrong here. The RPMs jump up, so he's shifting the middle of the bus stop, hit it in the wrong gear, and unfortunately the car went sideways. At least on the bright side, he was able to save it without hitting anything else, so he'll continue on just in behind the 96.
And that he will, and managed to collect everything back up. Right now, Thomas Bressi still up at the front of this thing, and Nick Johnson still pretty hot in his tracks. We see Riley Thompson fell off by quite a bit now, and you know, maybe trying to just hold his stuff, or maybe he used up his stuff too quickly, as both of these guys managed to pull away from him out front.
Now the guy's working through the carousel. This is a little bit of a Fredo with Thompson. It looked like he's starting to fall off the pace, and I think that's really how Bressi and Johnson were able to take advantage of him. They were able to get on by and already starting to pull away from the lead. But this is the closest battle you're looking at on the entire racetrack for our lead here. Guys trying to duke it out. Wow, the 28 of Johnson having a look. That was a very late dive. You gotta get sideways on exit.
It was a very late dive, and I think maybe trying to play games early in this race is a little bit of mind games never hurt, so he did get himself a little bit of sideways there, but he's going to maybe try to stick his nose out again, and he's going to pull right back in and almost giving the bumper to the back of the 24 machine that time. Bressi gets a little bit squirrely, and these guys going to continue riding nose to tail, and he is right on the rear bumper cover of that 24 machine.
Guys getting really close to each other yet again. I mean, if Johnson can get a decent run on him down the straightaway, potentially has a run, or at least a look into the bus stop. Unfortunately, not going to really be close enough to get there. But he's definitely making Bressi work for it, and this is another thing too, you know, being that driver in front, how much a threat do you think the 28 Johnson's putting to Bressi into making a mistake?
You know, that's all it is, too, is can I get the 24 to make any mistakes to get myself in a position to take that lead? And it's in the back of Bressi's mind that that 28 machine is hot on his trail, and you know, as I said before, it's Thomas Bressi's job out front as the leader. All the pressure's on him right now in that 2014. He has to stay consistent. He can't make any mistakes out there. Though it's still early in the race, we know that this thing's going to end up going green all the way through. And these guys have to keep their position as much as they can, because any little mistake can put you out of contention for this race a win.
We're talking also too about saving your stuff. Well, how bad is the tire fall off? Well, I mean, you're only we just completed 12 laps of this race so far. Best lap for Bressi, a 1:12.8. Currently, last lap 3 around a 114.4, so we're looking at, trying to do some math in my head here. That's about a second and a half of fall off, a little bit more than that. So far, and we're still maybe halfway through the run, so tires falling off quite a bit, and we're already seeing it too, the effect on track as these guys start to slide around.
Yeah, all these guys sliding around, and this is what I was talking about. It's throwing these heavy stock cars into the corners as things start to slick off, track temperature maybe goes up a little bit, and these guys, facing a pretty hot track temperature, 101 degrees right now, out on the racing surface, so that's not going to help their tire wear at all at this very moment either. So, all these guys facing Mother Nature and facing the abrasive track surface, and things starting to get a little slick, so you got to watch it here under heavy braking and under heavy throttle out of these corners. These back ends going to step right out from under you, and, you get a little bit loose, you try to overcorrect, you hit the grass, it could be game over.
Definitely can. You see, Johnson got a little bit sideways going into the top of the S's. Pulling out a little bit wide. And do you think for Johnson, do you think at this point, considering how bad the tires are, would you, if you're him, would you want to just kind of wait until getting some fresher rubber back on to fight and just kind of pace 24? Or is it just push all the way at this point?
It all depends, too, because if that 28 machine feels that he's better on older tires, it could be his opportunity to shine and try to take over that lead position. But if he isn't as comfortable as Thomas Bressi may be, or he doesn't feel as comfortable on these older tires, maybe the car's just getting a little bit too out of control for him, the driver may wait. So as of right now, it looks like he's trying to do what he can to get that lead away without overstepping the boundaries. It's going to be a thin line all the way through this race for all of these guys as they slip and slide around this racing surface, just to not overdrive it, because again, any little mistake could send you around or up into the guardrail, and that guardrail is not forgiving, especially here through the tight porches of the racetrack such as the S's. It could really very well end your night.
I really am tempted to pull away from this battle and to look at something else on the track, but every time I'm about to, these guys get close together again. I'll see if anything happens in the bus stop this time by. Doesn't look like that. We'll take a look, just a quick stroll through some of the other cars in the field running. Aiden Pistorius is currently running in the 9 car in 8th place. Kyle Lamb also in behind. We're looking at him earlier in the 81 car, back in 9th place, 4.5 seconds in behind Pistorius. Any other cars of note? The battle between Lakatos and Radojcic, this battle really hasn't re-emerged, but Lakatos actually in behind the 46 battle is starting to emerge as well.
Yeah, a couple of close contenders back there. The 46 machine and the 50 going to be coming out of the carousel this time by, and Lakatos trying to gain any little bit that he can, but can't quite get to the rear bumper cover. And now a battle for the lead up front, Vinny. And 28 trying to duck underneath the Bressi this time, and couldn't quite get there. He got his nose in there. He got all the way up to the number on that 24 machine, and he got a little bit squirrely down out of quarter number 1 and up through the S's, and he's going to have to hold tight right behind the 24 once again.
I told you I was going to regret pulling off these guys. Johnson has a look up the inside into the bus stop. Not able to capitalize on it, and I think I'll try to quickly get a replay of what happened down into turn 1. There goes a deep dive for the 28 of Johnson up the inside. Fortunately, wasn't able to get in, and really we talk about the runoff for turn 1. It's extremely important on that outside lane. You're sometimes considered at an advantage being in that outside lane, and Johnson wasn't able to beat it, but again, just mounting that pressure.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, is putting the pressure on Thomas Bressi right now, and Nick Johnson is doing a great job at that, and now Bressi really knows that he's there. He got underneath them once before, and it's in the back of Thomas's mind that he can very well do it again if he gets close enough. And these heavy braking zones, if you're able to extend that braking zone by just a little bit, or shorten that braking zone, I should say, by just a little bit, it could very well play to your advantage. And that 28 machine getting real squirrely through the S's as Bresci nearly got the guardrail there on the exit of the S's that time around. That was a close call.
Yeah, it really was. These guys definitely pushing to their limits up here in the lead. Whoa, Johnson also sideways on the brakes. Man, these guys are driving every lap like it's the last. Absolutely pushing 100% here, trying to get the best out of it. And you can see the times too, because they've pulling away quite a bit from Riley Thompson. He's fallen back 4 seconds from these guys. He's actually drifting closer and closer to Welker, who's been having a fairly quiet day in 4th.
Yeah, that he has been so far. Mitch Walker, he's kind of just back there minding his own business on Tuesday night. Scroll down through the Glen and kind of taking that nice peaceful drive. Nobody around him, nobody to really bother him so far. He is a little bit sideways as well, but again, throwing these heavy stock cars through the corners, it's going to be a mental game for everybody, and it's going to be really push your physical strength to wheel these things all the way around here for 52 laps, and we're only on lap 18 of this longer event.
And really curious, once we get down to pit stops, you're going to see any strategy between these front two, because again, these guys are so close together. Any little change, coming down a lap earlier might be the factor in determining who's going to be the lead, because they're fairly equal on pace from what it seems.
Yeah, absolutely, and these guys have been hanging tight with each other this whole time, and I'm genuinely impressed by both of these drivers up out front of the thing so far. Nick Johnston keeping the pressure on the 24 of Bresci, and Bresci not giving to the pressure, but both of these drivers doing exactly what they have to do to hold the positions that they're in. The roles almost changed a couple of times, but Bresci not letting him by with ease.
Got a poor exit out of that last corner, though, and Johnson's able to capitalize at least on entry, but still running in behind Bresci, and I'm curious when that patient's going to run out. Another look on the 24 to try to make him make a mistake, but he's hasn't really shown a whole lot of errors or mistakes from that 24. He's been, I imagine, glued up ahead as much as he can. Doesn't get distracted by the 28 in behind him.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Now Bresci pulls a little bit of gap on that 28 machine, and I think this is where the tires are starting to fall off just a little bit. And I think we were talking earlier, Finian, maybe about 10, a little bit over 10 more laps until these guys start thinking about pit stops. As far as fuel goes, we know that these tires are going to be really slick and really worn out by the end of these runs, and it's just what these guys are going to have to deal with. I'm starting to think that these guys can probably go just one round of pit stops here, 2 different stints on this tank of fuel, so it is something to look out for. I haven't seen anybody split it up. They would have already come down, I do believe. At least they would have started to think about it now, and I haven't seen anybody come down yet, so I'm thinking maybe a one-stop race.
Yeah, I was curious if we would see anyone, just come down just, due to how slick the tires are, but I mean, again, that's really where it comes in to having that tire management, although, again, with the way these guys are running, I'm amazed if they're saving anything. And they're significantly faster, too, than everyone else. The top 2, Bresci and Johnson, are running almost consistently 2 to 3 tenths a lap faster than anyone else on the racetrack, so still setting a fervent pace up front. Actually got a lap car ahead. I'm curious if, depending on where they catch them, this might be a factor.
A good job by that lap car there, by the way, for getting out of the leader's way. One thing I am kind of impressed about, Vinny, I'm looking at Thomas Bresci's lap times, and, he's been pretty consistent, as well as Nick Johnson has been as well, but there's only about a 2-second difference from the start of this race, we'll say starting at lap 2, because that's the lap that they were fully up to speed on already. So starting lap 2, here in a minute 12, 889, and now he's at a minute 14, 748. So lap times only off by about 2 seconds. So trying the early pit strategy game, I really don't think is going to work out here. Granted, it is a pretty large margin, but just not enough for these road courses.
Yeah, it really isn't. I think, I would say, however, considering Johnson has made many, many attempts at trying to take the lead, it might be advantageous for him if he can try to beat the 24 down a pit road by, maybe a lap or 2. just to get himself up in front. Because he so far has been struggling a bit to try to pass that 24 on the track. He might have to look to pit road to potentially being able to pass him. So it might be something to keep in mind. But again, for Johnson, it's just a matter of when to make that pit stop. And when it's too early, when it's too late.
Yeah, and, I think somebody's going to have to be the test dummy as far as coming down for pit stops goes. And I'm sure these guys are going to push it to the limits here on this tank of fuel to ensure that they're going to be able to make it to the end of this run. And as I try to quickly do math here to figure out the halfway point of this thing, because I can't do simple math, it's going to be lap 26 is going to be the halfway points. And so I'd say probably lap 27 to 28, try to split this thing into 2 equal runs. We may see one guy try to push it a little bit further, try to get that advantage with a lap or 2 fresher tires, but I do expect just after the halfway point of this race, these guys come down.
The battle's died down a little bit between Bresci and Johnson. I say died down, they're still within half a second of each other, so something might happen into the bus stop. But looking at McQuistion and William Machine, they were fairly close to one another a few moments ago. Kind of separated back out there, currently duking it out for 6th place. But so far, this race really pretty much has been the Bresci and Johnson show up in the front of the field. It's just amazing to see. This is pretty similar to the Watkins Glen Cup race last year between Martin Truex and Chase Elliott when they were battling for the lead. Unfortunately for Martin Truex, wasn't able to pass no matter how much he tried just due to the aero package, but Johnson has a little bit less to fight with in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely he does. Of course, Thomas Bresci has the advantage being out in clean air, but Johnston back there really proving this entire race that he can hang in, he can put the pressure on that 24 machine, and he knows that he can race out front. He has the speed of that race machine. It's just these two so equally matched here so far. It's going to make it hard for passing, and there aren't many opportunities to pass here at the Glen, but he's trying to take advantage of every passing opportunity that he's had so far and just hasn't been able to get the job done, but has not fallen off of Bresci's trail yet.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. We've seen Johnson make some pretty bold moves already in the first half of this race, and here he has another look. I doubt he's going to dive it. Oh, he might try to send it into the corner, but no, not enough. But yeah, it's moves like that. We're just now approaching halfway through this race. I can't imagine what he's going to be having, cooking up in the last 10 to 5 laps of the race. This is him not really pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, trying to play the mind games as he knows that Bresci is peeking at that rear view every once in a while, sticking that nose out just to try to play those games as he does one more time, letting him know that he's there. And man, these guys slipping and sliding all over this racing surface as these tires are just about done for here. But all of these guys know that what the limits are. There's such a fine line, and they're doing a great job handling these 700 horsepower beasts here so far tonight.
Their close battle brewing. McQuistion in the 93, Hayden Pistorius in the 9. Out for 7th place with drivers. For the most part, it's been a pretty quiet race, unless we missed some stuff, which I have a dirty feeling we have, just due to watching Bresci and Johnson slide around this place duking it out for the lead. There hasn't been any really major incidents, from what I can tell.
No, everybody's still in a pretty good spots. I see Will Roberts, he's 20 laps out off the track. Evan Adams, he's 18 laps down off the race track, as well as Christopher Matthews, 13 laps down. So a couple of these guys are a few laps down and off the racing surface. But from what I can tell, it's been all single car incidents. Nothing too major, so most of these guys still in contention of this thing so far.
Whoa. Honestly, I might as well just stop changing the gear. Wow, for Johnson, sideways into the final corner, the first big mistake out of the 28. That's going to cost him quite a bit of time. It's actually the first time I think these guys have been separated by over a second as they cross the line. Wow, that was incredible to watch here. We'll take a look on the replay to see what happened.
Yeah, we look here, heavy braking zone right there, and he tries to power off, and this isn't where he quite got himself into trouble. He was a little bit squirrely off the rumble strips already, and down into the braking zone there out of the final turn, and the back end just stepped out, and he had to lay off the throttle there pretty hard.
And I think also, too, he caught some grass on eggs. We'll take another look at it. And there in the penultimate car, got a little bit sideways, no problem there, but here he just catches the grass on entry. Well, takes.
That is all it takes. Slick tires don't do well off-roading. Let me tell you, I know from experience that slicks don't do well off-roading, and I think Johnston just tried to prove it there for us one more time.
Well, a few drivers down onto pit lane. Philip Dojicic, Kyle Lamb, also Colin Fambro making their stops. If I'm Nick Johnson, I would come in now. Maybe try to pull something on the 24 to get some time back. Actually, he doesn't even need a pit. He's actually trying to gain back some time. He gained, I think, a tenth that last lap through. Indeed, ran lap time on Johnson 115.3 last lap through. Progressive 115.6. Gaining time still for the 28.
Yeah, and the 28's proven that he can be faster out here, and it's just trying to get around and find the good passing opportunity that's going to be the hard part here tonight.
Getting around Colin Fambro. Fambro is one of those drivers that pit. He's currently a lap down. Making it down to pit road. You see 28 Johnson get on by him. Two others also down getting service. Riley Thompson, our pole sitter for this race, hasn't been a particularly splendid day. He kind of fell out a little bit. He's still running inside the top 5. But definitely looking at a win and just has not been able to keep touch with our leader.
No, not quite. So, you know, all these guys fighting for their own spots back there. I noticed Tyler Hensley found himself up into the 4th position so far. And all of these guys just kind of waiting along and trying to make pit stops. That I do see your leader down in pit road now.
Well, he used to be our leader because right now, as Bressy's gone down to make his stop, Johnson has stayed out.
Yeah, and I think that's going to hurt him more than anything, Finian, because I talked about that 2-second fall off since these guys got on were on fresh tires the first time at the beginning of this race, and he was already behind a little bit, and you know, it does seem like he has a little bit more long run speed than the 24, but I don't think that little bit of extra speed is going to be enough for him to be able to catch up with the 2 seconds back right at a green flag stops, and already about 2 seconds back from him as Bressy went in, so that puts him at a disadvantage already.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here, I'm guessing Johnson reckons he be a little bit more aggressive by doing a little bit of an overcut here and drive back up to Bressy with fresher tires, and then use that to his advantage. We'll have to see. Maybe this 28's got some cards up his sleeve. Maybe he was kind of hiding his true pace, and he's going to make a trip on the pit road. So it's going to be a 1-lap difference. But again, as we said, that's going to be about 2 seconds on the track. So we'll see how this is going to play out between these guys, and just trying to find where Bressy is on the track. He's currently in 4th after making his pit stop, and on the back straightaways down into turn 10.
Yeah, so Bressy back out onto the racing surface and still waiting for Johnson to pit, as he already does. So he pits out of the lead now, and that'll cycle things back through to, well, not quite Thomas Bressy. Still waiting for 2 drivers to come down pit road. Now it'll cycle back through the 24 Thomas Bressy, and you see Bressy already passing him, already to the exit of that pit lane, and the 28 machine's got quite a bit of ground to make up now, Finian.
Got quite a bit of work cut out for him. The gap's actually looking a lot more than I thought it was going to be. About 5 seconds between Bressy and Johnson. So he's got his work cut out for him in this in the last half of this race here. Our leaders, and this guy taking a chance now to look at some other stuff going on around the track. Welker, and haven't really had the camera on him a whole lot because nothing really happened around him. Currently sitting in 4th. He's actually trying to chase down Riley Thompson, and was doing so at a fairly slow rate under the last green flag run, so trying to catch back up to that 58 machine.
Yeah, all of these guys trying to fight for their own positions here, and of course, every position matters as far as the point race goes. So that's where these guys are at as of this moment. So I notice a lot of these guys just trying to play catch up back to one another once again from try to pick off where they left off, or pick up where they left off. I'm sorry, with the as far as these battles go and who they were battling with beforehand, and it doesn't look like there's been any major position swaps here after green flag stops.
Bamber with an aggressive dive into the bus stop. I want to take another look at that because he absolutely sent it up the inside on entry there. I wasn't thinking that he was going to make the move. There's another look.
Oh, wow. He licked the stamp and totally sent that. Have him work for USPS there, because that was a send of a move if I ever saw one, right around the 46 machine, and he made it work. Almost not without consequence, but he did make it work.
Yeah, Jordan used the 46 to make the corner a little bit, but, you know, I think in some cases, Robing's racing. I got a little bit
the old
fortunate
saying
there.
that 8 wheels is better than 4, I guess.
Definitely, and yeah, I mean, it made the move work. That was for position Tyler Dozier that was ahead of them. He's come in for his pit stop, and actually Lakatis right now in the 50s, the only driver of our lead lap drivers to make it down onto pit road. I should expect to see him for this time or next time, as really approaching the end of the fuel limit here at 50.
Yeah, this is about going to be the cutoff, I think, and there he comes down pit road now, pushing it right to the last possible lap, I do believe, and that's going to round it out for green flag pit stops, I do believe. Everybody going to be back into the positions that they should be, and everything cycles through.
This is really the point now after, you know, these guys had a slightly different strategy between Bressie and Johnson. We take a look at their lap times. Last lap through for Nick Johnson was a 1 minute 12.4. For Bressie, almost a 1 minute 13. So it's pretty much 0.6 of a second faster for Johnson last lap through. Starting to put in some decent laps, and at this rate, he would catch Bressie with quite a bit ways to go. But again, that's just kind of, you got to imagine the tire's going to fall off a little bit more as he's pushing. So I don't know. It's kind of up in the air as to really if Bressie can drive away or if Johnson's still got one last lap or one last card lead.
Yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see how this all goes. He's about 5 seconds or so back, just a little bit less. He is actually gaining time every lap on Bressie now, only at about 4.7 seconds back that last time, so he's gaining a couple of tenths at a time, but at the rate that he's going, I don't think it'll be enough for him to go back up and really get to the 24 machine to have a shot at it. But I've been wrong in the past, many of times actually, so it could be a surprise to both you and I.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been many times wrong as well. So, you know, you never know, especially, you know, some drivers, as good as they always hide something from the other drivers and the commentators as well. So we'll see if Johnson can really just drive his way up to the front. Another driver also trying to push the limits is Welker, as he's got Riley Thompson right up ahead of him. These two drivers haven't really focused on a whole lot since the start of the race.
Yeah, it's Mitch Welker back there. We're on board with him, and, you know, really impressed with all these drivers right now. No major incidents. Everybody handling the heavy braking zones A-okay, even with the ill-handling race cars. And we know that these things get really slick around this surface. It's a really smooth surface, but, you know, that also leads to not much to grip to here when the track doesn't have as much character to it. And, you know, Watkins Glen, and known for its high speeds and heavy braking, and these guys doing a great job of taming these beasts so far tonight.
And I think with a little bit of a lull in the action at the moment, right now will be a perfect time for a sound search. Here we go. All right, and we're back here live at Watkins Glen after watching a great fight earlier in the race between our leaders. Also looking at another great fight down the order. Chad Simpson leading this battle over Michael Stroll and also Brian Chambliss. And Chambliss in the 25 have not mentioned his name so far on the broadcast in that Redenzo radar machine. Kind of sitting in behind. It's a three-way fight for 13th.
Yeah, these guys pretty close together out on the racing surface so far. 13th, 14th, and 15th. There's all of these guys pretty close proximity to one another. Chad Simpson kind of leading this train of cars around here so far, and I think this is one of the closest battles that we have out on track so far. And of course, now that we focus on them, they kind of get a little bit spread out once again, Finian.
And I guess, you know, better time than ever to really go. Actually, before we go back up to the lead, taking another back look at Welker and Thompson. They're starting to close back in on each other, and Thompson really sideways out of the final corner there. So Welker's starting to trace him back down, but another driver trying to run down the car up ahead of him. There's Nick Johnson trying to catch Bresci. Last lap through, he's still been shaking off a really solid amount of time, about I think 4/10 faster for Johnson over Bresci to the lap times.
Yeah, you know, Johnson is really gaining a lot of time on Thomas Bresci now, and it could be promising for that 28 machine. It's so long that he's not burning off all of his stuff too quickly. And of course, it is always my concern when somebody gains such a large gap, or when somebody closes a large gap so quickly in this case, when they were running so consistently before, close together, I should say, consistently. It does concern me that he is pushing his stuff a little bit too hard, and he's going to burn off his tires too quickly. But as of right now, he drained that 5-second gap all the way into about 3 seconds or so as they're crossing the stripe this time, 3.1 seconds, and I'm quite impressed so far.
Yeah, really some incredible stuff. So Bresci's not completely out of the clear just yet. The gap about a tick under 3 seconds between them for the first time this run as the laps start to wind down. Looks we got just under 15 laps to go left in this race. Wow! That angle really showing you how sideways these guys are out the top of the S's, letting it all hang out.
Yeah, they are, and you know, there is some elevation change there as well, so the top of the S's, quite literally the top of the S's, is where it kind of levels off, heading down one of the longer straightaways here before they get to the bus stop, and it really upsets the cars. They get off of that elevation change where it flattens out, and the cars get light, and these drivers get slideways there before they head down that longer straightaway to try to carry the speed.
Off of the corner to the exit of the carousel, we're looking at Welker trying to chase back down Riley Thompson up ahead. The gaps have really been closing between these two drivers significantly. Last lap through, Welker was looking at almost 2/10 a lap quicker than Thompson, who's gained a lot more this time by as well. So these guys looking to exchange positions, and I think for Welker, this is potentially the first time he's had to make a pass on track this entire race so far. He's really been out of the action, which is, you know, for a lot of drivers, and myself included, that's a very good day, especially just running up and forth by yourself.
Oh, absolutely. You know, he's been kind of minding his own business this whole time, and now is his opportunity to try to get himself into a podium position. And, you know, Riley Thompson, he's had a nice, consistent race here as well. He's fallen off quite a bit. He's about just under 10 seconds back from your leader of Thomas Bresci, but you know, Mitch Welker now trying to have something to say about that as well. But of course, Riley Thompson having a pretty good day also. And anytime you come home with a clean race car and a consistent run is a good day in my books.
That was another thing we were talking about, you know, just making sure you finish the race. At least get back to the start-finish line. At least for our leaders, that's been it's worked pretty well for them so far. Really seen, you know, other than a few slip up here and there, no one's really, you know, gone full on into the wall. Although as I say that, I feel like someone's just gonna completely miss the brakes down into turn one and take a lot out of the wall. So let's see in case someone makes a major mistake. And I mean, talking about it too, do you think for Johnson, do you think that, you know, that little bit of a slip up we saw, he almost crashed out into the final corner. Do you think that's weighing on the back of his mind just a little bit, considering that for the first time he found the edge of grip?
Well, he found the edge, and now he knows where it is. Maybe he can, you know, try to back it down just a little bit. He knows the limit through some of these corners now, and just what the race car is going to do. So either he can compensate for that, or he can back it down just a little bit and try not to do it again. But he is pushing really hard to get up to Thomas Bresci now, and he is still gaining on that 24 machine. So, you know, looking at the gap now is he's fallen off just a little bit since the last time around, 3.2 seconds. So he has some more ground to make up, and I'm still wondering if maybe he's burning up his tires a little bit too quickly, but we won't know that until the very last portion of this run, or until he starts consistently falling off from Bresci.
Now, I'm trying to just look at their sector times. We have the graphic up on the bottom. In the middle sector, Bresci ran at 26.6 to Johnson ran at 27.2. The middle part of the track, so there alone, Johnson lost quite a bit of time. It was like an uncharacteristically slow lap for him considering the pace he was running at earlier, so made a little bit of a mistake that put him a bit further back on course to getting back to the 24, but now he's really starting to run out of time as we, I think, took off 4 laps to go.
Yeah, 14 to go, and all of these drivers just try to buy their time at this point, I do believe. You go back to the battle for third as well, as we're on board with Welker at this moment, and Welker, he hasn't lost any ground. He hasn't been able to really gain much either to the back of Riley Thompson, but again, I think he's just trying to buy his time and hang out back there for a little bit until he knows that he can pounce. He still wants to come home with a clean race machine, and he doesn't want to try to push the issue too early just for a podium position.
I want to take a look back here as he's come off the exit of the carousel. He absolutely sent it on entry. I don't know if that was just the camera angle that we were looking at, but take a look at the entry of the bus stop for Welker. 76 speed. Here we go deep into the brakes. Look at that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he sent it there into the bus stop and then eased it down into the carousel, but wow. I'd say it's slideways down there. He was hard onto the brakes and they did work, but and now we're looking, it looks like he did close a little bit of a gap down to the back bumper of Thompson this time as they head down into the S's. So he is looking pretty good to try to get himself into a podium position. He's started in the 4th position, still riding in 4th currently, and just trying to gain that one more spot, and every position matters in a points race. So these guys just trying to hold a consistent day here today.
Indeed they do, and Thompson also, we saw an exit of the S's. He was really sideways and had a very poor exit as Welker tries to keep the car put down to the apex of the corner into the carousel. Also trying to get that runoff, made a huge amount of time up.
Yeah, and Mitch Welker now going to try to stick the nose out just a little bit, and he's going to try to get himself right up to the rear bumper cover of the 58 machine now, and this is the battle for the podium spot, that 3rd position. The 76, he lost a little bit of time there, but still right in the tire tracks of that 58 machine, Riley Thompson, and Thompson's got the pressure put on him now.
I think really for Welker, I'm curious if he's just going to wait maybe for the 58 to make a mistake. He dives it deep down on entry and catches the curve sideways off of turn 1. Welker's really just making it all hang out there. I think he'd stop saving his stuff. He's just pushing right now, trying to get around the 58.
And that he is, and you know, I think that's what you really got to do in this portion of the race. You want to try to gain any little bit that you can. There isn't too many more laps left, so all of these guys just fighting for what they can get, and now he tried to send it into the bus stop again. He got sideways, and car a little squirrely there, and he's going to try to power up, losing a little bit more ground once again.
Back straight as well, and you know, just to remind you, this is again the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series here at Watkins, Glen, approaching the later stages of this race, and boy has it been a fantastic show. This race is still far from over. The gaps might look big, especially for our leaders, but I mean, it's still fairly close. It's down to 2.5 seconds between Bresci and Johnson still biting away, and actually these guys have caught a decent amount of lap traffic here. Bresci trying to work on through them.
Yeah, Thomas Bresci gonna wake through. It's not too heavy lap traffic. But lap cars sometimes don't want to give up that lead lap that they're on. So see if the 46 tries to fight. I don't really anticipate it. Gonna try to find a good spot on the racetrack to pull up, but he does right here on the entry of the carousel. So not gonna put up a fight to stay on the lead lap here, and that'll put that 46 machine his first lap down. So not giving Thomas Bresci any trouble here. And, I've really enjoyed covering these guys so far, and Fuel putting on a good show from what I've seen. A good caliber group of drivers, high caliber group of drivers here. And as far as I know, Finian, I'll be in here every Tuesday with you covering for these guys and for the season. So it'll be a blast for sure. I'm excited.
Yeah, indeed. We're definitely looking forward to having you as well, especially when we get to the Ovals. These guys put on a great performance. We know to do well on the road courses. These guys are as aggressive as they are on the Ovals, especially the guys up in front, Bresci, Johnson, Thompson, going for wins week in, week out. A few other names to do that I'm not mentioning. It's a very competitive series, and it's still amazed at how competitive it was for the lead. But it looks like Johnson might start to struggle a little bit now. He's fallen. The gap's ticked back over 3 seconds. And he's got also 2 lap cars ahead of him to work through as well. So it's just going to, depending on where he catches it, could hinder his progress a bit. And I think now we're kind of starting to see, I think he might have run out of steam at this point.
Yeah, and that's what I was concerned about, is him using up his stuff a little bit too quickly. He's got a good margin of gap back to 3rd place, so I don't think he really has to worry about that unless he makes a major mistake. Such as possibly looping that car around, and knock on wood, I don't want to give him the commentator's curse, but I think he's going to be all right here where he is, and at least end up with a nice runner-up finish, which, starting in the 2nd position, ending in the 2nd position, he didn't lose and he didn't gain. Consistent day in my books is always a good day with a clean race car.
Correction to what I was saying earlier, Thomas Bresci does have a win this season so far. And it was at Indiana. Oh, it was at the Indianapolis road course. I'm not surprised. It was another road course.
Thomas Bresci, I covered him. I don't know, it had to be 2 years ago now. In one of the old leagues that I used to have in broadcasting. And, yeah, it was Hardline.
Oh yeah, right. Because we took over coverage of Hardline from you guys. I remember now.
Yes. Yep, and yeah, that's right. You guys did. I didn't remember that.
Yeah,
but
that
we did cover him.
I think that was how we first.
The hard line.
Yeah, that was how we first started talking to each other. I think. We were talking.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That was back in my old PTR TV days, and that's how me and Corey both got associated with SYM TV, and you and Kyle, and wow, yeah, that's actually really funny. So. Thomas Bresci, I know him to be really fast from the hardline days, and he was always really fast here and all the other road courses. So it's good to see that he still got it and proving himself here tonight at Watkins Glen.
Finally, Johnson gets through some of that lap traffic to now again sit his sights on Bresci. But again, we were both talking about it. It might be just a little too late for him. Looking back at Lee, grabs McQuiston. Sheen catches some grass. On the final quarter, whoa! Big dive by the 93 of McQuiston up to the inside. You can see the damage on that 96 as well. But he's not going to be too thrilled with that.
No, it didn't sound like it over driver communication, but, the 96 will come away with it. The 93 kind of backed off a little bit, so Sheen's going to pull away and still hang on to that 6th position here. So far, he started in 7th, so he is 1 spot up from the 9th. And again, consistency, you can't complain about it.
We'll take a look at the replay from that 93 McQuiston, what he says. There's Sheen catching a little bit of grass and exit from McQuiston, trying to make a dive up the inside. Wow,
man.
Absolutely drove over him.
Wow, I don't think he expected too much of a speed difference there on corner entry, but man, oh man, there's a little bit of damage to both of those race cars, and I think that was a hey, how you doing? And he's going to kind of let off the throttle, and the 93 will let him gain his spot back and try to pass and clean the next time around.
Yeah, we'll see.
Props to both of those drivers.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see as they approach the same complex of corners yet again. If we see anything out of Liam, he's gonna keep it on the gray stuff this time, not catch some grass on exit. And one battle I'm actually surprised we haven't seen heat up, but actually expanded back out, is between Raleigh Thompson and Welker. And I'm curious between these guys. Actually, it looks like Thompson's picked up the pace. He actually was the fastest car on the track last time through. So I think Welker might have burnt. We saw him sliding all over the place earlier. I think he might have burnt up his stuff too at 76.
Yeah, I do believe so, and so Welker falling off just a little bit. See him getting really squirrely there on the exit of the carousel, so I think he fell off just a little bit, but started fourth. He'll probably end up in fourth again as long as no major mistakes happen. So top 5 finish, and I think all these guys will be happy with the top 5. And from what I can tell, not a lot of major position swaps here, Finian. So all of these guys pretty much having a consistent day from where they started.
Yeah, well, this kind of quickly, since we kind of got the time, no entirely close battles on the track at the moment. A bit of a lie with that, but we'll just kind of casually work down the order for it, just to kind of see, you know, how you guys have been running. Bretzi started in third, up into first. Currently your leader. For Johnson, been second place for pretty much the entire day. Had a few glimpses of potentially taking the lead, but not enough for Thompson. It was the reverse of Bresci, started first, back into third. Welker has been maintaining in fourth. Hensley has been maintaining in fifth. For Liam Sheen and McCushion, they pretty much just swapped spots, and they might swap it again, potentially with some more damage. Hayden Pistorius started in 11th, up into 8th. Kyle Lamb, 81 from 15th to 19th. He, I think has been the biggest mover of our field, and for Radojcic too, from 14th to crack just inside the top 10. This is actually now your closest battle on the track. You see him trying to hold off Casey Lakatos, trying to break inside the top 10.
That he is, so that 19 machine up into the 10th position, and Lakatos gonna be trying to make his way and make up some ground through the S's, and still no battle yet. That kind of simmered off. 50 machine got a little bit squirrely there off the top of the S's that time by, but these guys all gonna pretty much be settled out where they are. And well, right as I say that, Lakatos kind of got pretty close to the rear bumper of that 19 machine in front of him. Still nothing doing. He gets high there off the entry of the carousel and now down off the back portion of the speedway. Really loose was the 50 machine that time around, so I think that's all going to simmer out.
And now into turn 10 as they're trying to get back closer to one another. Lakatos too. Yeah, you're talking about him, you know, getting a little bit squirrely in the S's. Caught the corner really sideways. Oh, actually, hang on, up ahead. Bit of development. Johnson's fallen back 7.5 seconds from Thomas Bretzi. So something happened on this lap.
See if I can scroll back through and see what happens. A major mistake there, obviously, by that 28 machine.
Yeah, Dennis on through. Yeah, I guess it was actually earlier. I don't know if Brandon. I don't know if you want to continue to try to find that. Look at Johnson, but now he's definitely out of the battle for that lead.
Oh, I see where it happened. It was lap 46, down, heading out of the second to last turn. He caught the braking zone a little wide, and right on entry of the corner, he hit the grass, and he took a ride through the sand and tried to take that race car off-roading, and maybe a trip to the beach there through the gravel. Didn't quite work out. There's no beach on the other side, just tires, and he barely missed those to keep himself going, but he lost a lot of time to the lead car, Thomas Bresci.
It's going to be fortunate for him, but I mean, hey, still maintain that second place. It also just shows how much of a lead these guys have brought up from everyone else. You know, between Bresci and Johnson, a little over 7 seconds, and Thompson 10 seconds, and some guys, I mean, the entire top 10 separated by covering the span of a minute around this place. So very large gaps here. Of course, you kind of expect that with the lack of caution. These guys just running purely on pace. If you make a mistake, it's going to cost you dearly.
Absolutely, and already just a whole 3 laps to go here, so these guys ticking off laps quick, and you know, a pretty short race overall for these guys, and everybody doing a good job staying consistent, and Thomas Bressi especially. Consistency, I know, is what he does best on these road courses, and he's proven that for me here tonight as that 24 car. And again, commentators curse, I don't want to jinx anything, but as long as nothing major happens to him, we could see that 24 in victory lane.
I was gonna say, it would take a you know, a lightning strike from Zooks, I think, at this point to take him out of the lead. And now that I said it, his internet's probably gonna go on about 5 seconds. So hopefully it doesn't. If it does, I apologize, Thomas.
another check on the list of things that only happens to sim racers that can't possibly happen to the real world is, oh, my internet went out, I'm done.
Oh yeah, I've had that. You know, I used to run on Wi-Fi. You know, when I first started doing this, man, it sucks having that happen to you. Internet drops as you're doing really well in the race, and especially in official too, because then you lose all your iRating from that as well. It really sucks. So been there, done that. Hopefully for Bressi, hasn't had it happen in the past. Fingers crossed for him as there are 2 laps to go. Looking at Philip Radojcic and Lakatos go at it again. Gap separated out a little bit. We'll just go back to your leader, Bressi, in the 24. And just a phenomenal race from him. I don't think, you know, I'm going to stop talking. I think it should stop because something actually, we've talked too much about him. Something's going to happen. But he's driven a really fine race.
Absolutely he has, and you know, I'm always impressed by this 24 team. Every time they come to a road course or even on the ovals, I mean, we know that Bressi is always one to look out for and always going to be a contender. Of course, his first win here this season, as you mentioned, on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, and now here at Watkins Glen, upstate New York. These guys all putting on a good show, but Thomas Bressi putting on the doctor's mask and putting on a clinic here tonight amongst all the field.
Now the last 2 road courses we've been to, being in the Indianapolis road course and also Watkins Glen last season, Bressi has won both these races. As he comes across the line, it's going to be white flag in the air for the 24 of Bressi. And you know, last season he was disappointed with performance, was looking for wins on several different occasions, finally got one at the later part of the season at the Glen. It really boosted his morale.
Surprise.
Yeah, it really boosted his morale. And I think, you know, going into this season as well, he's been extremely competitive. He's actually our points leader, despite the fact that Nick Johnson has 3 wins to his name. And I think Bressi going to be happy. You know, I don't think he's going to really care about the points. It's going to be another win to his name, 2 wins so far this season. And I definitely, you cannot argue anything that this 24 hasn't earned it tonight.
Absolutely, and if I had $1 for every time I've said the word consistency here tonight, I'd be probably have a total of $6 to my name. But you know, consistency through the season is huge as well, and Thomas Bressi proving just that. And I'll tell you, he brought his stethoscope with him. Let me rephrase. He grabbed his doctor's gloves and he pulled away with the clinic here tonight. The 24 machine comes out the final corner.
Whoa!
And slideways, he's going to be your race winner at Watkins Glen.
And what a fantastic way to do it. I was really hoping he didn't jinx him in the final quarter. I think that was him just flexing for some style. For Nick Johnson, I think he might be just a little bit disappointed on what could have been, but we'll get a really solid second place finish. Riley Thompson gonna finish in the top 3, rounding out your podium. Mitch Welker, extremely quiet day out of him, gonna finish solidly in 4th. Hensley gonna come across the line in 5th. For Liam Sheen, there was a close battle going on between himself and Tyler Dulger, but Dulger has ran into some issues. Wasn't able to capture what happened to that 80, but I think, oh wait, no, sorry, it wasn't Dulger, it was McQuistion, the 93 that was in behind the 96. Liam Sheen will come across the line in 6th place. And oh, here in behind, here's a last lap corner pass.
Oh, wow.
The story is taking no prisoners. Going to door the 93 out of the way. He's going to take 7th place. From Bush, he's got to settle in for 8th for the 81 of Kyle Lamb. He'll come out of the final corner. 9th place for him. Lakatos in behind for 10th. And then Philip Radojcic in 11th. And your last place finisher on the lead lap, Colin Fambro, in 12th. But for this man right here.
Awesome job. And of course, as you were saying, Finian, Thomas Bressi, awesome job tonight. And I'm sure he's going to come around and burn the house down on the front straightaway in that 24 machine as he's earned the right to do a massive burnout. A little bit of Formula Drift there going on. Almost said hello to the safety truck down there. But what a good win for Thomas Bressi tonight.
Yeah, this is the point where Kyle says, if he doesn't do a burnout down in front of the grandstands in turn 1, it's not a true burnout. But he does here.
And he's gonna burn it down right here. And he earned it, let me tell you. Thomas Bressi coming home with a win. Johnson in second, Thomas in third. And every single one of these drivers out here, they were persistent, they got through, they were consistent, and all these drivers finishing pretty close to where they started. An impressive race overall for these guys with fuel with a Premier Series.
Here he's gonna go, I imagine, down into turn 1. There we go.
there's the real burnout down in front of the grandstands in turn 1. And awesome job here from Thomas Bressi.
Final results scrolling across the top of your screen here as Bressi's just lining it up down. I'm sure he's a very happy driver. But we'll take this time, we'll cut to break. Don't go anywhere, we'll be interviewing your top 3 and more. Come back lives. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. And we're back here live at Watkins Glen for some interviews. First, we're going to be talking to Tyler Hensley, finished in 5th place. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, Tyler, it was a consistent night here for you. And of course, your stats here very consistent. You started 5th, you ended up 5th. I'd say overall a pretty good night for you. And, just overall thoughts, how are you feeling?
I feel pretty good. I wish I would have been a little more competitive. I'm not going to cry over a top 5, but I wish I would have been a couple tenths faster just to get up there and battle for the win with those guys. But like you said, overall, good night for me. Uneventful, really.
Yeah, it's uneventful. Not always a bad thing. Every driver wants to get in on the action. But consistency, you were kind of on your own business out there all night. So we saw you up there battling a couple of times with a couple of drivers. You were up, I think, all the way up to the 4th position at one point, and then green flag pit stops. You fell back one position, but you can't argue with a consistent night overall. Tell us about how pit stops went. Did you have a strategy going into tonight, or was it a pretty hard set plan?
I was originally going to stop like 2 laps earlier, and I noticed none of the lead guys were wanting to bite that early. So my goal all along, because I knew Thomas was going to have pretty good pace, was to just match what he was doing. So whenever he came in, that's when I was going to come in, and then I was hoping maybe I could get around Mitch, but there was a point where I was behind him through the S's, and I lost it, and from there on, he just drove away.
Well, an awesome job tonight, nevertheless, and consistency is key, especially here on the road courses. You managed to hold where you were. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank or give a shout out to for your performance here tonight, Tyler?
Just shout out to Thomas. It's a good win by him. A lot of good racing out there, a lot of clean racing. The lap guys were calling out, kind of where they were. So that was always nice and helpful. But shout out to you guys for putting on a good show as always, and maybe we'll be up here next week.
Appreciate it. And hopefully maybe we'll be talking to you out of the podium next week. And thanks for talking with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good one.
All right, moving on now to our third place finisher. It's going to be Riley Thompson. Riley, you started up on pole leading this race. We saw you and Bressie, and Johnson were in an epic battle up in the near the beginning of the race, and unfortunately you weren't able to keep pace with them. Just kind of, I guess, walk us through your race, and is there anything that you could have done to potentially stick with them?
All I know is I hate tires. Driving style, I said the same. Just kept burning those off. I've had that issue all season for a while on road courses, and I mean those two, their pace is crazy, and the fact they're able to keep it that way, I don't know how to do it. So I'm happy with how I finished. A little close with Mitch there at the end, but it wasn't too bad.
It definitely wasn't. I just kind of also, speaking of Mitch, we thought, me and Brandon both thought, you were going to fall prey to Welker the way you were running. Was there anything you kind of figured out in the second part of the race to really just kind of, keep yourself ahead of him?
I'd say about the final 10 laps, it started to get my groove back again in the bus stop. I was kind of hitting it weird after the pit stops. Even him also putting a lap later helped a little bit. But yeah, it was just kind of luck with lap cars too.
Well, even though you didn't get the win rally, it was a really solid drive out of your 58 machine. Hopefully we'll see next week.
Yep, hopefully.
All right, moving on to our second place finisher. It's going to be Nick Johnson, and Brandon, take it away.
Yeah, down here with Nick Johnston now, and Nick, pretty consistent night for you as well, and we talked about it pretty much all night long. Consistency is key here. You stuck with Thomas Bressie there for quite a while through the first portion of this race. How are you feeling after tonight?
Tired. That was a long race, just over an hour out there driving things as hard as possible. But I don't know, I just had to do something different there coming up to the pit stops. We have a halfway points here. So I was going to get the halfway points and then hopefully catch back up to him. But unfortunately, the tires with the temperatures, they plateau. So even though I was able to run down all the way down to about 3 seconds, once our tires kind of hit that plateau, then unless you have outright pace, you're not going to run people down super quick. So I was just kind of chipping away, and then I went into turn 9, I believe, at the end of the back chute there, and went for second and found fourth, and the car didn't want to slow down in fourth gear, so took a ride through the dirt and then just brought it home from that point. Had really good pace. I think Thomas drove really well, and it would have been iffy if we would have pitted on the same lap because it's so difficult to pass. I mean, it seems like every time I got a run, it was into somewhere that wasn't a good passing zone, or if I did go to the inside, he was able to hold the outside just enough. It was going to be really difficult, so I wanted to try something different and see if I could make it work in the end.
You mentioned how tired you were also, I'm sure mentally and physically. Tell us how it was throwing these heavy stock cars around through these fast, tight corners here at the Glen.
Oh, it's real difficult. I mean, in most sports cars or anything with wings, going up the S's, you're just foot to the floor and driving no problem. These you're wheeling it the whole time, having to lift out of the throttle and get back in, and car wants to get real light over the top of the hill, and it's not like you're light with a 2,000-pound car. You're getting light with 3,400 pounds. The car's all over the place. You got to hit the curbs just right through the inner loop, or else I mean, a few times I hit them just wrong, and it sends you way out, and you're like 7/10 down on the lap. So it's a lot of positioning, making sure not to overdrive the car, overdrive the tires, get the car in position so you can get back to the throttle and use all that horsepower.
Well, you did an awesome job tonight. Of course, coming home with a second place finish. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank or give a shout out to here for your performance tonight?
I think you guys from SimTV for broadcasting this. You guys do a great job every week, and glad to have you guys here. Fuel Racing League for putting all this on, and Project 2, all those team guys over there for their help and support throughout the week. We'll see you guys at the next one.
Awesome job, Nick, and thank you for talking with us here tonight. Congratulations on your runner-up finish.
Appreciate it.
And last but certainly not least is going to be your race winner, 24 of Thomas Bresci. And Thomas, man, did it again. You won here last season. In the Cup Series, you won now with the Xfinity car. How does it feel, man?
It's awesome. Glad we could pick up another win this year. Still, they're all on road courses, but we'll work on that, I guess. But I got lucky a little bit there near the end. I think Nick said he found the wrong gear or something going into turn 6 right after I got stuck in the wrong gear going into the bus stop and drove through the grass. So had a little more breathing room with that, but I think he was probably a little bit quicker than I was. But I got into the pits a lap before him, got a little bit of a gap, and had, I think, a little less trouble with the traffic than he did, so it worked out. But I'm glad we could pick up another dub going into the playoffs here. A couple more rounds to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have after this 2 more rounds until the playoffs begin, and obviously you're saying you winning another road course. Unfortunately, in your case, there aren't gonna be any more road courses on for the season. So any tracks really that we're coming up to that you kind of have your circled on your calendar that you could potentially do well at it, especially over Nick Johnson, who's looking to be your biggest rival?
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually remember everything off the top of my head. I know we got Charlotte, Richmond, Atlanta. I'm really looking forward to, but I think that's still in the regular season technically. But either way, looking forward to that. I don't remember if that's next week or the week after though. But yeah, got some good tracks coming up. So we'll we'll see what happens here, and hopefully we can just kind of keep the pressure on. I definitely think Nick and I are gonna probably run this all the way to the wire, but there's definitely some other guys with some really good pace, and I think after the reset for the playoffs, it's going to make things pretty interesting. The playoffs were interesting last season, as I think you probably remember. So hopefully they're not that interesting again this year, but we'll see. So
Yeah, and definitely will. Well, next week we are heading to Atlanta, so Thomas, hope you're prepared for it, and interesting to see what you can do out there.
all right, sounds good. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Problem. That'll wrap up interviews for tonight. After a really solid race, especially the first half, just watching Bresci and Johnson go absolutely going at it for the first half of that race, just battling to get out for the lead. It was some fantastic stuff to watch.
Absolutely, it was, and all of these drivers doing an excellent job here tonight, and I'm very impressed by every single one of these guys out here managing to hold a consistent race, managing to hold where they were pretty much all race and keeping it nice and clean all the way up through all 52 laps of this event.
Kind of looking at what we got on the schedule for SimTV tomorrow night. Yeah, indeed, tomorrow night's the 29th. We got into VIR for the Spec MX5 Challenge Series. And after that, the day after Scars Ferrari Challenge, we'll be heading over to Road Atlanta. On Saturday, it's going to be the Outsiders Racing League. They're going to Charlotte Oval and Roval, doing a doubleheader there, so that's going to be some interesting stuff. And also for Sunday, the Indy Elite Series, they're going to Indianapolis for 200 laps there. be a long race, but it's going to be a very fun race, especially going to have a full field of Indy cars there. And then for these guys, they're heading next week to Atlanta Motor Speedway for the next round of their season. But for now, we're going to sign off. My name is Finian DeCuna. I'm here with Brandon Kreutz, Sim TV. I'm going to be signing out. Thank you for watching.